what it is. It's about development. It's about community. And it's about opportunity. And that's what Salford is. It's the opportunity club. Yeah. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people, they talk about Salford. They talk about them being, little Salford, banging around at the bottom, just about surviving. It's not. Salford Devils, serves the community. It allows people to be engaged with sport. It allows people in the community to engage in training, better themselves. It's not just the 17 blokes on a field. Them days have gone. Salford Devils, any rugby league club, right? It's not just about what happens on the field. It's about everything now. And Salford are making steps in that direction. And you have to applaud them for the efforts which they have made.
Keith and Dave talk all things rugby league on the Dockhouse Rugby Show, with news, match reviews and special guests from the world of rugby league. Also available in audio format as the Dockhouse Rugby Pod. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Dockhouse Rugby Show. Today, Dave and myself are joined by Robert Parkinson, and he's one of 3 members of the Devil in the Detail, along with Paul Whiteside and Paul Parkin. Robert also hosts Salford City radio station, but they are the voice of the people of Salford Rugby League Club. Welcome to the show, Robert.
All right, Keith, thanks for inviting me onto the show. Looking forward to it.
Oh, thanks for coming on. Love the Christmas jumper. I'm loving that.
Yeah, obviously, it's a bit of a festive cheer. Going to get some pizzazz on the show now we're into the festive period.
You have completely pizzazzed us. If it was a pizzazz off, Salford are winning 1-0.
That's why it doesn't allow me last that long winning 1-0, being a Salford fan. But we'll take it for now.
I'll keep score. Pizzazz, Salford 1.
Yeah. We'll have a pizzazzometer. See what the score is at the end.
0.
So, Devil in the Detail, a brilliant podcast. You've been going approximately about 10 years, I think it is now, Robert. And if I'm right in saying, you're probably one of the longest standing rugby league supporters podcasts that's out there.
Yeah, been going 10 years. My first love, actually, before podcasting was commentary. And used to commentate for Micron Video for Salford matches back in 2002. With Steve Grammy Ramsbottom, the real voice of Salford Red Devils. If you're watching Micron videos, he was the voice, towering over the action. Sort of met him sort of 2003. Sort of asked him, if could I have a go, because before I was at school, I used to commentate while I was playing football and things like that. So it was just a thing that I really fancied. So met him, did a bit of sort of commentary with him. My first ever commentary, obviously you two lads are St Helens lads, aren't you? My first ever commentary was Salford v St Helens, 2003 at the Willows. Salford beat St Helens, I think it was 40-20. And the big moment was I was in the tavern at Salford, the Willows Tavern.
Yeah.
And I was obviously with mates enjoying it, because obviously I hadn't heard from Steve, because I presumed he was going to do it with his mate. I think it was called Mickey, I think, the St Helens commentator. And I got a text message off Steve saying, "Can't do it today. You're gonna have to jump in for me." And I was like, whether 2-3 pints deep at this point, I was like, oh, "Okay, we'll do it then." So obviously went up to the gantry at the Willows. Met me, I think he's called Mickey or Mike, the St Helens commentator at the time. And match started. Salford raced into it. I think it was a 10-0 lead. Okay, first half. So St Helens attacking the scoreboard end at the Willows. I think it was Sean Long threw a pass out wide. Okay, ball went to ground, picked up by Kevin McGuinness, Salford's Australian centre. He raced off, ran 40 metres, burst the St Helens cover, got to the fullback, which was Paul Ellens, went inside him, and as he was going, I was thinking, who's going to be in support? Up turned Simon Baldwin, Salford's second row. And in my mind, I was thinking, how's he got there? Because McGuinness has run like 40 yards, sprinting, and Simon Baldwin, it was unknown for his pace. He's a good player, solid player, did his tackles, did his strides, but he wasn't very quick. So he got the ball, raced another 40 metres, and there's every step he took, my voice went higher and higher and higher. So got to Salford's St Helens 20. He offloads his shoot later, who goes under the posts, right? Salford lead 18-0. I'm like a choir boy at this point. It's so loud, it's unreal. And so high, it's unreal. So end of the
9, Cunningham at dummy half. Loose ball. Salford have possession.
And McGuinness is away. McGuinness has got. He's running. He's running. McGuinness is away. McGuinness is running. McGuinness step back inside. Run back inside. McGuinness doesn't. And he's got it. Baldwin. Baldwin to Letlow. Letlow going under the post. Letlow scores for the Salford City Reds. What a score. McGuinness ran fully 80 yards there. What a score for the Salford City Reds. Made a complete fool out of Wellens there. Running right round him.
The game, Salford win something like 40-20. Malcolm goes under the post to win it for us. And then the weekend after, the Super League show was on BBC Two. And they were talking about the games. And suddenly they said, oh, just have a quick listen to this. And then they played my commentary on the Super League show. Everyone sort of found it hysterical. And I was like, proud of the punch. You don't get on the Super League show every night, every day, do you? Mm-hmm. So after that, the Super League, then the BBC decided to have two feeds, so then they cut the local commentator out, so they didn't have me squealing underneath the summarisers or whatever, which was, a claim to fame for me. The club used the footage in their season advert the year after. But yeah, if you've got a DVD, it's something to behold. That was fantastic. But back to the podcast. So we started in 2013. I saw a sort of advert on the Scarlet Turkey, which was an independent message board saying anyone really fancied doing a podcast. It was from Patrick Noon, who was my first co-host, and I replied to him and said, yeah, I'll have a go. So the first year, he and me and him talked about the games like we do now. He did all the editing and I did all the talking, basically. We got through the first year, got to the end of the first year, and then he told me, he says, listen, I'm going to give this up because he was in a band, Patrick. He said, right, I want to concentrate my band now. And I thought to myself, the devil in the detail, this is too good of a thing to just to let go. So I had no technical experience at all at that point. But I said, listen, don't worry about it. I'll just take it on. So it was a bit of a journey because obviously I'd no training in audio, skills or anything like that straight away. So the sounds were a bit on and off in then first few years. I did go on a course eventually, like a journalist course, radio journalist course, where they taught me how to, fix the levels and things like that. And we've gone from strength to strength. Now, obviously, I don't blow my own trumpet, but we're like 4-time nominated, rugby podcast, which is, fantastic. Again, when you think about the people who are in that group of podcasts who are nominated. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, I'm proud of what we've achieved. I'm proud of what we've covered. I mean, we've gone £1 Million Miracles against OKR. We've got grand finals. We've got Challenge Cup finals. And the podcast kind of sort of goes through that period. And we documented that through the podcast and how the fans feel and how we feel. And it's a brilliant thing. Paul Parkin, Paul Whiteside are both, rugby league nuts. They know everything about the sport. They know everything about Salford. They're so passionate as well. And they add so much to the podcast, more than I ever can, because they're, so much better at that than I am. And then obviously being part of the podcast, Salford City Radio then sort of noticed me and said, do you want to come on to Salford City Radio? And there was a show called The Sport Zone, which covered all different kinds of sports like football and rugby and boxing and UFC. So I basically started on that, did a couple of years as being just the talking head on it. And then eventually the person who was sort of editing it left and I took over and been doing that sort of ever since. So a kind of a 2-show dual running thing going on for maybe 3, 4, 5 years now. Which is, super exciting. You get to cover, the fantastic sport that we follow, and we like to be able to put, the positive things out that the club do.
Brilliant. One of the good things that I do love about it, Robert, is that just like us, we are from St Helens, and Dave's a rugby league fan. I'll admit, I'm a Saints fan. I'll hold my hands up. But Dave's a rugby league fan, but we are fans of the sport, and we try and promote the good of the sport and for the betterment of everybody, really, that's what it's all about. And that shines through, though you are at heart a Salford podcast, Salford Red Devils podcast, it's not you still every opportunity you can get to promote the game, and we can only thank you for that as well, because there's not enough of us about trying to bolster that sport, because it is the best sport in the world. We all think so, and so yeah, I really get that. That shines through in all your content.
Yeah, it's something that we talk about. We talk about being positive. We also talk about being real, and if something does happen that doesn't put the club in a good light, we do mention it. We don't hide from it, but we also sort of highlight it, and we also talk about what they can do to fix that. And obviously, the club are fantastic. I remember when we first started in I think it was 2013, 14. We barely had a first team really, but now we've got a ladies team, we've got a reserves team, we've got they've got an elite academy, they've got a development academy, they've got a wheelchair team, they've got sort of fingers in many pies now in the community, and that's what Salford Devils want to be. They want to be a community club, and having these sort of teams under that Salford Red Devils umbrella only sort of helps the situation. And if we can do our bit by shining a light on different teams and different players and giving them opportunity to be able to sort of broadcast the outside world and tell their feelings about rugby league and how they enjoy it, then we're here for all of that.
Yeah. I remember years ago, my youngest brother Kevin played for Salford, and it was like in the academy, and he'd had a couple of games that they were televised on Sky Sports, and he'd had a great little season. And they said to him at the end of the season, Kev, if we had a trophy and we were having a presentation night, you'd have got Player of the Year, but we haven't, so you're not. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
They just didn't have the money. They didn't have that sort of like tier to it as they do nowadays. It was like I said, he played. His games were televised on Sky Sports, but they just didn't have the funds or the money or anything to give the lads a trophy at the end of the season.
Yeah, and like I say, all different teams under that Salford Devils umbrella are really, really good, really passionate. People involved, really they'll communicate well. They're very engaging. It's great content for the podcast. You can't ask them for any more. And the club are quite good as well. We know our role. We know not to stand on any toes and not upset anybody, because if we upset anybody, then how do we get the content? So it's all about engaging with them, working with them, and helping promote that Salford Devils brand. Yeah, we've got the podcast to sort of deal with the the inner supporters, but also with the Salford City Radio. It's about reaching out with the community and saying to the people of Salford, you have a rugby team here who are competing week in, week out, have good players, because Salford historically don't compete, or they do briefly and then they drop off again. But under Paul Rowley, we've had a few years of consistent competing, and we have to wake the people of Salford up. It's going to be a slow process because it takes a long time for people to forget. Don't forget, I think Salford's last league win was 1974 or something like that, before last time we won a major trophy. So we've got a long time without a major win. And then when we get to the Challenge Cup final, it's in COVID and no one can go. So nobody enjoys that cup final moment where everyone goes to the Wembley Stadium, and that's how memories are made. You guys know that with St Helens, with your many trips to Wembley over the years. It's about memories in it and bringing people together. And Salford never got that with the Challenge Cup. Yeah, we got to the grand final in 2019. That was a special occasion, another sort of step on that road, that journey that we're on. I also often talk Salford being about the opportunity club, and that's what they are. They are an opportunity club, and it's about reaching out and reaching for them opportunities.
Yeah. I think, if I'm right, I think it was 1938 Salford last won the Challenge Cup final. They beat Barrow 7-4. Something like that, wasn't it? But and again,
as if you remembered it, Keith.
I know it's good. Imagine if I had that written down.
Like, can you remember?
I was there.
How was it?
I was there. It was great.
How much was the pint?
It was 1D.
1D.
Yeah. Was it in black and white when you were watching it live?
Yeah. On the commentary, and welcome here today to the Wembley Stadium.
Where'd you park your horse and cart? That's the question.
Well, somebody nicked it. Somebody took the wheels off it. It was a rocking horse.
Was it?
Yeah. But here's another question for you then as well.
Go on.
You talk about you talk from the city radio,
Yeah.
to the population of Salford. And for those that
Yeah.
don't know, Salford is a city in its own right within
Yeah.
the Greater Manchester banner.
Mhm.
So, according to the 2021 census, what was the population of Salford? Do you know?
Was it 2 mil? Two and a
No,
half mil?
of Salford. No, not according.
Maybe could be great. Get him answer that maybe.
Yeah.
Salford about 800,000, something like that maybe.
No, it's 269,000, which is an increase from 2011 by 15.4%. There you go.
Bigger than we think we are. Not as big as we
Yeah.
think we are.
Yeah, that's according to my sources, which could be completely wrong.
Well, to be honest,
don't
yeah,
trust what I'm saying.
your sources are probably better than mine. I was just off the top of my head thinking we are a city, and you think about with Salford, it goes quite far. Earlham, Wharton, and you think of all them people that the club should be engaging in, and they are trying. And you can sit there and a lot of people, we go into these press conferences and talk to Paul Rowley and Chris Ninu, and people often say to Paul Rowley, how can the club grow? What can the club do to grow? And they're asking him what how should the club grow, when really his job is to make the players play better, not to promote the club outside the area. So and they are trying, and they're starting to break down barriers. They're starting to invest in the community, and get in contacts within the local amateur rugby league scenes and the schools and the colleges, and that's how you grow a club. That's how you grow a community club, by being involved in that. It's not going to happen straight away. You could be talking about a generation of people for it to go through before you start really seeing the fruits of their labour, especially with the Elite Academy coming in this year, because it gives kids a pathway, both male and female players, who can now come in at 7-8 in the Red Rise development squad, go all the way through that, then onto the Elite Academy, and then go through that onto the reserves on the first team. You've got a pathway, and it gives people belief that they can reach the highest level through Salford Red Devils. Because I think with Salford, when you look through the years, we are an opportunity club. But the problem with being the opportunity club is you're giving players opportunity to play at a Super League level. You say to the player, if you're good enough to play Super League, we'll sign you. We sign them, they play well. We give them a better contract, they played well, right? And then they continue to play well. And then people like you, Saints, or Wigan, come in and say, come to us. And then, because obviously bigger money, bigger budget, they end up having to go. Lots of people, like that. Ben Masala went to Warrington. Dan Holdsworth went to Hull. Richie Marler went to Warrington. Nathan McAvoy went to Bradford. We could go through the whole of Salford's history where they got to a point where players who could be built, the team could be built round and take Salford to the next level. And unfortunately, Salford had to sell. But the way things are set up now with the reserves and the Elite Academy, and hopefully with the stadium deal coming through eventually, they might not need to. And I think with Salford, they don't really need a lot of money. They just need a bit, just enough to get them, over that hump where they don't have to cash in a player to pay the bills. And I don't think they're that far away. And I'm hoping, like you say, with the stadium deal coming up shortly, they'll be able to do that. And then it'll be a new dawn, won't it, for Salford Red Devils? With the grand final in 2019, the Challenge Cup final, it shows they can do it. They've got, the club have a mentality. I think the best thing about the Challenge Cup final, which we didn't get, the fans didn't get to, right, was the club managed to get to it, and they learned how to deal with that, pressure of being in a Challenge Cup final. Yeah, the fans didn't experience it, which is fine. Well, it's not fine, it's a bit upsetting really, but at least the club experienced that and experienced the build up for it. So when it comes again, they'll be ready. Like with the grand final when they got beat by Saints, they always say you got to lose one to win one. And I always felt with that game against St Helens that we were just happy to be there, because obviously a lot of Sol fans never thought that we'd ever get to a grand final, and it just felt a bit like that, in the ground. And I always think if we do get the opportunity to get there again, we'll be ready and wanting to, and ready and willing to win it, rather than just getting there and celebrating the achievement which we did.
You made some really good points there about the infrastructure at Salford, and I agree. I think it's very good. I think they've worked really hard, and they've made it a focus to ensure that they develop that infrastructure within the club to give those pathways.
Yeah,
and it's good to see. It's certainly good to see. It's the right thing. It's the right thing to do. And it also gets that buy-in with the community you mentioned several times already, because people will be going to watch the reserves, the academies that are engaging with younger people who will then want to go and watch. And it's a good stadium. There's been announcements on the stadium just today, hasn't there? That there's been some progression with that. Can you tell us any more about that?
Yeah, basically the council and Peel have agreed the deal. The deal is now over the line. Salford still have to sort of agree the deal with the council with their tenancy and on what they'll get through sponsors and food and drink. So don't forget, we've been at the Salford Community Stadium for 12 years, I think, and through that time they've not received any money through food and drink. So they've only gained money through season tickets and sponsors. So when you think about it, all the other clubs in the Super League, you look at the likes of Castleford and Wakefield, own their own ground, own their own booze and food. The money they make from that makes their club tick. So for the last 12 years, Salford haven't had none of that. And we've had, it's a miracle that we're still here, really, when you think about it. But now we have an opportunity, because obviously, hopefully, Paul King, council, they've already done, hopefully, I have no inside knowledge on this, but hopefully they've done the dance, okay, and now it's just a matter of doing it for real, and we'll get the deal done quick, because obviously lots of vultures circling around with other news stories about the squad and that. So the quicker they get the deal done, the quicker they can then roll out the sponsors, and then we can see where we are. But it's an exciting thing. Like I said before, the community club, it works really well. You've got teams, like I said, when I first started watching Salford, we barely had a first team. So now we have these teams who are playing for the shirt, playing for the badge. And you guys growing up, you always wanted to be, play for the Salford. You always want to play for St Helens, and obviously never was good enough. But then these people are, and they're good enough to play for the badge. And I always kind of trying to remind them that this is an honour. You're playing you're living out someone's dream here. A bit like Ryan Briley. Interviewed him a couple of times, and he's living our dream, because he's a Salford fan, and I always say to him, what's it like? And he's like, well, it blows my mind sometimes, because what we're doing and where we are, and what my family support us, and it's something that I've always wanted to do. And I always think to myself, what would I do if I was Ryan Briley? You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of it. But yeah, it's a fantastic thing. The club are moving forward. They're taking big steps. It's just this hurdle they just need to jump over, get the deal done, and then we're away.
Yeah, and you mentioned the players, with some of the difficulties or press around the advance payments and so on. There has been press that there are other clubs looking at Salford players, but they've managed to bring some good players in as well. But any of those pique your interest, or any other team you're worried about losing?
Well, I think the thing without losing players is, we're being the opportunity club. We've rebuilt before. So if we have to rebuild to go again, then Paul Rowlett, who is a master at that, he is a brilliant coach, a brilliant person who inspires. He inspires the players. So if we are to lose anybody, hopefully they won't do, but if we are, then it's for the good of the club, and I'm sure they'll bounce back, and I'm sure they'll rebuild. But I suppose that's a frustration for Paul Rowley, because every season he builds a team that gets into a playoff, and then suddenly someone turns around and say you have to sell your best player, and it's annoying. It must be annoying for him. But then he must think to himself. He talks about the Salford spirit a lot, and he talks about the community feel, and everyone's in it, in it for the right reasons at Salford, and the fans are up for it, and and that's what we need now. We need that Salford spirit to rise again and shine and be brave and be bold and be wanting to prove the doubters wrong. Obviously they talk about the amount they want. on in the story, which is like 700,000. The salary cap, is it 2.3 mil salary cap total? So it's a bit like if you're asking for like say that we don't know the facts, do we? Right? But let's say we take the amounts off what we've said in the story is 700,000. Salford's salary cap, according to loverugbyleague.com, and a article they did was 1.7 mil. So if they have to chop 7.7 mil up 1.7 mil, you're only running on $1 million. And London Broncos, according to the same article, they were only on 1.4. So how can you run a Super League side with losing that many sort of that amount of money, if you know what I mean? And you think of the fact that you have to have a squad of 28 or something like that, and you say the average, we don't know what the average Super League player earns, probably going to earn between 70, 80, something at 90 grand, let's say. How many players are you losing? You're losing like 8, let's say 10 players if everyone's on 70 grand. So well, then you lose 10 players, you've only 18 players in your squad. So how are you going to be able to do that? So I'm a bit thinking about the numbers. I don't think the numbers are right. But like you say, it's journalists, it's big pizzazz in it. Come and read my story, and that's what it is. But you got to respect them because that's what journalists do. They've got to make the big stories, haven't they? But yeah, I'm not.
That's 2-1 on pizzazz, by the way, to Salford. 2-0. Sorry.
But write that down. But I think with the stadium, when it comes in, we bring the money with the food and the drink, which is approximately, Paul King's talked about being nearly 150 grand on what we get now. So that plugs a bit of a gap. But I'm sure when February comes, we have the meeting with Paul King, the fans. He'll outline where we are, and then we all have an idea of where we are and where we're going. I'm hoping we don't have to sell players, especially with the stadium deal being announced between the council and Peel. Hopefully the Salford and council can get together, get it done quick, so we don't have to. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. And do you think, obviously, there's going to be another? It's not so much a change in the guard because the guard's already there, but it's more of a restructure, isn't it? With Paul going upstairs, a bit more managerial, and Kurt coming in as the coach on the ground.
Yeah, I think with Kurt Agate and Paul Rowley, they share the same philosophy. They share the same values. They obviously coach together, so you're hoping that the tactics stay the same or are similar. I talk about, Paul Rowley being the inspirer. He inspires people, a bit like Paul King off the field. He inspires people to walk through walls for him, and them two in the club are massively important. I think moving Paul Rowley to the director of football role is very important because you think about it, modern day sport, not just rugby league. Let's move into football as well. The football director is very important for any club because they pick the coach, they negotiate, with players, don't they, and agents and stuff. So really, the power's kind of shifted, and it from the coach or the manager to the director of football. So maybe keeping Paul Rowley in that role is a bit of a masterstroke, really, because he'll still be involved in the culture of the team because he's not going to bring anybody in who isn't going to fit into that group, is he?
Yeah.
And he knows what Kurt Agate is all about, and Kurt Agate will obviously learn under Paul Rowley, the ins and outs, and you do wonder how the players will react this year because they know that Paul Rowley is moving upstairs at the end of the year, but you're hoping the players will be professional enough, and also obviously as a group they'll be still used to talking to Kurt Agate about how it works. So I'm sure the club have thought about it. It's not a thing that these could have done sort of on the fly. It is a blow because you look at with Paul Rowley, he's the most successful Salford coach, modern Salford coach, 54% win ratio for Paul Rowley, better than Andy Gregory, better than Ian Watson, better than Carl Harrison. He's not done 100 games yet. Them three were over 100 games at Salford. So I think at the end of the season, he'll be touching 100 and odd. So if he gets to 100, then you've got something to compare him to the other clubs, other coaches with. But yeah, he's been a fantastic coach for us. Like I say, an inspiration. And in moving him to a more powerful position in the club I think will only benefit the club as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't think it'll lose a lot, if I'm honest. I think Paul will still have his influence on the squad, on the staff, but it will remove him from a lot of the day-to-day duties, which is time-consuming around the coaching, and he can concentrate more from a higher level. And Kurt and the team around Kurt then can concentrate more on the coaching and the training. So I don't think there'll be a massive difference. It's almost like a promotion for Paul, a recognition of all his great work and all his hard work over a number of years, and still having his influence on the full overview of the squad. And I suppose he'll probably have a better view then of those pathways as well, because it must be difficult when you're just in the first team to have too much of an eye on those pathways. It's so time consuming, modern rugby league. So we could improve some of those pathways as well. But there's some great people at Salford. One I've mentioned several times is John Fieldhouse. The work that he's done in the background has been absolutely brilliant. I know about that. And a lot of the staff around there. So it's a good place for young players to go. It definitely is. It's probably one of the better places if you want to come through. You're in a very supportive environment, which has a clear pathway. Some of the other clubs that do bring through players, we mentioned Saints and Wigan have been very successful in the past, but they start with a good squad as well. They recruit very highly at those age groups 14 to 16, which gives them a really sound place to work from. Salford and those clubs struggle a little bit more at that recruitment at 14 for that very top talent. But if as you've mentioned it earlier, if you're good enough, the pathway and the opportunities there. So I think the future is bright. I don't think there'll be any negative impact this year. I don't think the players will react negatively. I think they'll see that as a positive opportunity for them as well. So he'll cut his teeth even more this year. I'm sure he's ready already, but I think he'll cut his teeth even more. I just see it as being positive. You mentioned a bit about some of the difficulties and the challenges, but you can see how much work they're doing on that. They're doing a lot of work to get that put right.
Yeah.
And they're trying to live within the means by signing players who've maybe slightly underperformed, but capable of a lot more. And they've done that for years.
And that's what Salford is. It's like I said, it's the opportunity club. Just want to touch back on Paul Rowley. Obviously, he has contacts sort of outside Salford. He's been to America to help sort of grow their game as well. The Copheads have a link up with Salford Red Devils. A couple of their players are coming over on trial in January. Ulyss Gillard and Sleepy Williams both played for the United States against South Africa last week. Both scored hat-tricks in 2 games. So 2 very good players. But the problem is both from America, and all the paperwork between sort of all that, whether they do get whether they get the opportunity is another thing. But if that happens, then it's going to be something special. I think they're 2 very good players. But moving back towards the community thing, like you said, John Fieldhouse, Stuart Wilkinson, Danny Barton, they've got a nucleus there of rugby league people who know how to develop players, and that is what obviously with Salford, before we have this elite academy set up, you'd get to 16 and then there'd be no place for you to go. Because at 16, they drop off. But now we have this elite academy, they can step into that. I think I read a story that might have been last year or something. There was some lad from Eccles Roosters who got to 16 and had to go to Warrington because Salford didn't have a team to field them, because at 16, unless you're some sort of freaky monster, you're not going to be playing sort of professional sort of rugby league, are you? So they had then the opportunity to go to Warrington and develop. I don't know what happened to him, but that hopefully won't happen from now on, because we have this elite academy. They'll go from 16 all through to 18, and then at 18 into the reserves, and then we'll see if they are good enough to play Super League. They'll go into that Salford squad. If they aren't, then they might have opportunity to play in Championship level, might have opportunity to play in First Division level. And even if they're not good enough to play rugby league in general, Salford Devils have the ability in the community to find them jobs, to get them training, to allow them to become a functioning person in the community. And that's the important thing. I think a lot of people talk about the club and what they do on the field, but the Salford Devils Foundation do a massive things off the field, supporting people through training and things like that, to give them skills to get them a better life after rugby, or even if they don't make it, to produce a career for them. And that's we talk about society, don't we? And the funding and stuff like that. But the foundation do a massive job for the people of Salford to provide opportunity and skills to better themselves. And you can't, you've got to hold your hand up, you've got to clap them, because they are doing a fantastic job, as well as the club.
Yeah, I fully agree. I always see Salford as a very understanding and compassionate club with the players. So they're not just going there, look, you're good enough, you come through, you're not good enough, you're gone. They're much more understanding, compassionate, and they develop the young players as people, not just as players. Yeah. And that has a real benefit for them and their opportunity to earning potential in life away from the game if it doesn't work that way. But also sets them up, if they do follow the channels, it sets them up for the game after they retire, because many rugby players struggle after they finish, not knowing where the career is going to go. So having that understanding, compassionate, that awareness throughout those pathways is a massive plus for the club, and they really should be applauded for it. It doesn't come easy, to have that when you're trying to get results on the pitch, because they don't often run hand in hand. Being understanding with someone and then trying to get the best out of them, because sometimes they need the push and there's pressure on the coaches. So the way they can manage that while still perform, I think is very commendable, and it's a good model that other clubs could look to.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, I said there's a void there as well, isn't there? From that 16s to 18s bracket, kids at club level finished. Not a lot of teams have an under 18 section, and we lose a lot of good potential talent or people that could stay in the sport for a long time. Not necessarily at professional level, but just stay in the sport. And they just kind of go by the wayside and get forgotten about. So it is good that Salford are sort of like treating those avenues.
Yeah, because we spoke to Stuart Wilkinson, who was the head coach of the reserves, and he talked about finding players, not necessarily rugby players who have the right skill set to develop into a decent rugby player. There is a few lads in that reserves. The name escapes me at the moment. Who was a basketball player, who Stuart Wilkinson sort of came on his radar, developed him through the reserves, and he made his first team debut against Wigan, second row. Name escapes me at the moment, but he looks like a really good player. Yeah, he's still young. Yeah, he's still fresh. But that's the pathway in it, and the players who are in that pathway will feel loved, won't they? And they'll may give Salford a more opportunity to, rather than just in it for the money, if that makes sense. So you're hoping that you can develop and we can continue with this sort of pathway that we're on. Yeah. And it is exciting times. It has to be said. We're, as a Salford fan, you look at the club and what they are now and the size they are, and the fingers that they got in that many pies, and the in the community, helping the community. You can't ask for anything more. We just need a few, say 1,000 more fans and a bit more money, and then who knows how far this club can go. I can't think who it is. Hopefully, it might come to me shortly. But he's a second row. He's a good player, very good player. And I thought, yeah, he'll do if obviously he continues the development. And I suppose the way they set up with the reserves and that, now he will gain that experience over the next couple of years. And then when Paul Rowley, or it'll be Kurt Haggerty at that point, looks at him and thinks, you know what, I'll give you a go in the first team. Don't forget, he's already played first team as in that game against Wigan, so they'll know how he's react. And I suppose when we look back at that day, it was men against boys. We have to admit that, but it's what the younger players learned in that game, and we as fans won't see the result of that. They'll see results of that in training, won't they? Because they'll know what to do differently next time. So it's how they develop off the back of that, which is exciting.
It's a very, very exciting time. And like you say, they're making all the right noises, and let's just hope that those seeds that they're planting bear good fruit.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's about development. It's about community. And it's about opportunity. And that's what Salford is. It's the opportunity club. Yeah. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people, they talk about Salford, they talk about them being, little Salford, banging around at the bottom, just about surviving. It's not. Salford Devils, serves the community. It allows people to be engaged with sport. It allows people in the community to engage in training, better themselves. It's not just the 17 blokes on a field. Them days have gone. Salford Devils, any rugby league club, right? It's not just about what happens on the field. It's about everything now. And Salford are making steps in that direction. And you have to applaud them for the efforts which they have made. And like you say, we've got to come back to the stadium thing again. You get that done, then we can get sponsors off the back of it, and then we'll see what happens then with the good trained Salford Devils.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that game at Wigan where I think Salford fielded quite a few of young up and comers. You said one of them was a young basketball player, but actually Dave's son played in that game as well. He made his debut that night.
Jamie Pye.
Yeah,
good lad. Good, big prop forward. I'll tell you a story. He's obviously training with the first team, isn't he? And we'd be obviously in the press box corridor bit, and he'd keep coming out every week. Me and Paul Whiteside would look at each other and go, "Who's that?" And we'd both be looking at each other like we didn't know who it was. And then eventually he signed a professional contract, didn't he? And then the club sent him off to, is it Barrow? And scored a try for them, played a few games for them as well. And I think the likes of, Chris Hill coming in, is it Sengari, the French forward? He will be able to learn off them and become a better player himself. He could be, the next big thing if his, development continues. And that's what Salford is. It's the opportunity club, and he has now that opportunity to make, something of it.
Yeah, he's training hard. He's had some work on his ankle over the winter. He's training really, really hard and eating the right stuff. So fingers crossed things go well for him next year. We'll wait and see. But as you say, there's opportunities like that, and they will work hard to try and support those players come through. And that was a great night, I thought, against Wigan. I thought they all stood up really well. I mean, that's a fantastic side. It was a full first team Wigan had out. It was a capacity crowd, and they lifted the league trophy that evening. So to compete as they did for that period, I think it made everyone proud, didn't it? So certainly us as parents, obviously.
It's heart, innit? They gave heart, and you can't ask for anything more. As a fan, you just want them to run the blood to water.
Yeah.
And that's what they did last night on that game against Wigan. We know we're not. We didn't expect to go and win. It would have been a fairy tale. Can you imagine if we'd turned Wigan over with that team? Would have been a fairy tale, wouldn't it? But it was more about their development off the through it, and then how they react to that. And it's like I say, exciting. You could be 2 or 3 players. The player I was talking about, he's called, is it Lebenu Wells? His name is second row. Good player.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited what's to come with Jamie, because he looks the part, and like you say, he's experienced with Barra now playing. He'll have, like you say, Jack Ormonroyd, Chris Hill, these forwards who have been there and done it. They'll be hopefully taking him under the wing, giving him advice, letting him develop, and then we'll see. He could be star front row for Salford for the next 5 years if he continues on that path.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, as parents, we just want him to be happy and healthy and hopefully perform as well as he can. And we're proud of what he's achieved so far. And he went well at Barrow, and I thought he went okay in that game. And you're right, those players around him have been absolutely fantastic, and they continue to be. So he's in a good place, and so are the others. So it'd be nice to watch them all come through and start performing regularly for Salford. It's a great club. It really is a great club. They've looked after him. So we're very grateful. But something else I wanted to speak about. You mentioned Pizzazz, and you're currently winning the Pizzazz 2-1.
2-1. Oh, no pressure, lads, but, 2-1
up. But Salford have launched some Pizzazz themselves today. They've launched a new top and a new away top. What do you think about that?
Yeah, nice. Obviously, a big thing in it. Merchandise, for the club. VX3, do some really good, merchandise for the club. And another good one for me, red really bold red. Sponsors and badge kind of blend into it, which is also good. But yeah, hopefully people will get out there and purchase it when it comes available. I think there's an event on Saturday at the Lowry Centre, where they have a VX3 have a shop / Salford shop that have an event picking up season tickets and stuff like that. So another attempt to engage with the community and bring the people in. And then that you can't ask for anything more than that. But yeah, I do like the merchandise. Bought myself a couple of jackets as well to send to the big man with a red jumper. Not me, the other big man.
The big man.
The big man. So I was sending them off to the North Pole shortly, so we can get his elves to wrap them up and send it back.
Nice.
Yeah, I agree. I love the top. I think it looks fantastic. I like the away top as well, and some nice merchandise and the training kit and everything looks great. So hopefully, plenty of people will buy those, and it'll help the payments in the club and the finances. So just in time for Christmas, and as you say, the elves hopefully wrapping lots of those up at the moment.
Yeah, and like I say, the away shirt, it's like a navy in it, and that's nice. Like you say, nice little advert from the club as well. Featuring all different players from ladies team, learning disabilities team, first team. And like I say, it's the community club showing the likes of rugby league. This is what you should be doing, because obviously we talk about big clubs with big budgets who usually have a big man who supplies all that. But how does that continue to run forever? Really, the community club structure should be the way to go for everybody. So Salford are being brave. You can't ask for anything more. What's holding them back is obviously what's going on, with the stadium. Hopefully that hurdle is now cleared and they can kick on. But it should be looked at by the rest of the Super League, because I think obviously you talk about the story about having to cut the playing squad and all that. They came in. The people who came in to have a look at the books and that obviously looked at the rest, because I think Paul King, when he came on our podcast, Level in Detail, he said that we're most efficiently run club in Super League. And obviously they come into it and then think, you'd be cut this and cut that and cut that. For them just to go straight for the playing budget confirms that for me, that there's no spare money anywhere else, really. You know what I mean? And I said I go to these other clubs, following Salford, and they have loads of staff. There's loads of people dotted around doing different things. And you think at Salford, there's probably about 10 max of people who work within the club, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's a bit like, these other clubs maybe need to look at themselves and think, look at the Salford model and think, right, what are Salford doing right here? Mm-hmm. And can we transfer that into our club? Because that'll only help the sport, because obviously other clubs slim down their operation. They have spare money then to invest in the right areas, like players, like community activities, and then the sport then grows, doesn't it, as a whole? So we just need, like you say, it is what it is. But I think a lot of people should be looking at Salford, structure and think, you know what, might be onto something here.
Yeah, because I mean, most of the clubs that are doing well and successful have a good benefactor who's got a nice big fat checkbook, who's happy to write checks because they're quite excited and enjoying rugby league. But what happens when they don't enjoy it as much anymore and that checkbook gets withdrawn? They're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, we had Marwan Kukash, didn't we, for a while? Promised the earth, didn't deliver. It was one of them where he came in, he saved us, didn't he, from obviously oblivion, and his ideas, his thought process didn't quite match up to what Salford was at the time. He went big. He bought big players, bought Rangi Chase, bought Tim Smith, bought Gareth Hock, bought $1 million players, let's call them. I didn't quite merge together.
Marquee players.
Yeah, marquee players. Bought about 5 or 6 of them, and it didn't quite work, did it? Really? And he obviously realised what he took on, and the money. We weren't making great money at that time because we weren't really, created off the field in that area. So he probably thought, "Oh, what have I let myself in for here?" And he slowly kind of like backed out of it in the end. And that obviously with £1 million miracle at the end of his, thing. A lot of people remember the £1 million miracle as a fork in the road for Salford Red Devils, and it was, because if you think about it, Marwan really was on his way out at that point, right? If we go down, okay, the £1 million miracle, we aren't coming back. We're done. And I always think to myself, because obviously Hull Kingston Rovers went down, but they've got Hull FC. They're never going into falling into oblivion because Hull FC are there. But we have Warrington, we have Swinton, but they're not really rivalries as in you're going to go just out of spite, because he's a Swinton fan and I've got to still go to Salford because he's still go to Hull FC. It was never going to happen like that. So I always think it was that mad 3 minutes at Craven Park changed the club forever, because before then, like I've said before, we weren't very good at being successful and making the right decisions under pressure. But for them 3 minutes, it did. We made the right decision 3 times, which changed the course of history and changed the course of our club from that point. From the £1 million miracle, we went to grand final. Then we went to a Challenge Cup final. Then we've gone into playoffs as well. So it was that was the lowest of the low, but it was the highest of the high escaping from it, because you boys must remember that moment. It never even makes me tingle now thinking about it, how close we were to the oblivion. And from that shift, we'll call it, to where we are now, it's all been up from there.
It has. So another question then, what does success look like for Salford going in, let's say, for the next sort of 2 or 3 years?
Success for Salford for the next 2-3 years would be playoffs and a good cut run. So I think the people of Salford need success, I think, to be engaged, because obviously you've got Man United, you've got Man City, who are winning mostly. Man United aren't winning very well, and to be fair, Man City aren't winning well last few weeks. Let's be honest, right? But historically, Man United historically, Man City recently win mostly. So people of Salford are sort of hooked on that. So I think Salford Red Devils need a run of playoff finishes. Let's call them high playoff finishes. Let's say 4 and above, and that will engage the people who are at home watching Northwest tonight, and they'll sit there and watch it. And Salford, the guy will pop up and he'll say, "Yeah, Salford beat Wigan at the Salford Community Stadium, 30 points to 6." And you'll see it on the screen, and you'll see the league table where Salford are 4th, and they'll think, you know what, Salford are 4th. They're doing doing pretty good this season. You know what, I might go and watch.
Yeah.
So they need to be in that top 4, top 5 constantly, consistently, because the likes of Castleford, Hull, they had 5 years of that, 5-10 years of fans expecting to be in a playoff. You'd say, we'll get to the playoffs and then we'll see. Yeah. When Salford Red Devils fans, we were like, if we have a good cut, we've had a good run and we get not many injuries and, a bit of luck, we might get in the 6. And that's the difference, really. You've got the mindset is changing. Don't get me wrong, because I think 3 of the last 4 years we made the playoffs. So people are thinking, you know what, we've got a decent off squad here. The coach is good as well. We are competing. We just need to keep the players and build on it. And then if we manage to stay in the playoffs positions for the next 3 to 5 years, let's say, right, people will be conditioned for Salford to be in the playoffs, and they might think, you know what, I'll go and buy a season ticket because we're expected to win more games than we lose. Now we're in the top 4. So then your crowd builds then, because don't forget that game against Leigh, the playoff game this year, 11,000 fans. Don't be wrong, Leigh played the part, brought a good solid 3,000 Leigh fans, and Salford did market the hell out of the game as well. So both sides did their best to generate a bit of that excitement, a bit of atmosphere, a bit of what playoff rugby is all about. So the people who went that day will think, you know what, good. It was a full house. Salford lost, but we had a good day, because obviously, behind the scenes there was like a food court thing outside. There was a bouncy castle. There was things going on. It wasn't just turn up to the game, go in the game, come out the game. There was stuff to engage new fans. So they'll be thinking, you know what, we had a good day at Salford, didn't we, against Leigh? We'll go back next year. So they'll come again, and then they'll have another good day because the club have sorted out all the stuff, for the fans outside. And then they'll think, well, how much is a season ticket? And then they go and buy a season ticket, and then they're engaging, aren't they? So the club are doing their bit by sort of learning from past errors, we'll call them, and now building a event atmosphere where everybody's engaged in the game, but also enjoying the day as well. And that's the important thing, I think. Like you say, if you get a run of success, let's say 3 years of playoff football, a decent cup run, quarterfinals, maybe semi-finals, let's say, then people will jump on that bandwagon, and then who knows how far this runaway train will go.
Yeah, and you are quite a proud bunch. You Salfordonians, is that a word? Salfordonians?
Salfordians, it is.
Salfordians, that's the one. Salfordians.
Like when it's like when Australians come to it's always Salford. They always say when they first come here. I can't wait to play for Salford. It's like who? But yeah, it's
in Manchestershire.
Oh yeah, well, it's one of them, Manchester, in it, but it's a community in it, and it's too big of an area to ignore. Our success is going to be engaging with the people of Salford and the people of Manchester to come and support your sort of local sort of rugby side. And we talk about the fans, amazing, so passionate, so loud. I mean, obviously we're commentating for RDTV. I'm sort of blessed with this seat where I'm sat in the press box and I can listen and watch our fans, sing and chant and that. It's just the noise that they can generate with only a couple of hundred, let's say 500, 600 hardcore, right, is unbelievable. And you always think to yourself, if there was another 500 on top of that, what could they generate? They always say with Salford, there's the away support is a third of their total support, which is pretty impressive, really. When you think about it, likes of Wigan and Saints, who are clocking 1,000 home attendance, let's say. What would a third of that be? If they all travelled away, like 3,000, 3,500.
Yeah.
You're not getting, these top clubs are not bringing that. But then you have to ask, why are you not bringing that? No one ever comes to Salford and says, how do you manage to bring a third of your support away from home with you?
Yeah,
that's another question that should be asked.
There's not many teams that fill the away end at the Totally Wicked Stadium, and Salford last season did pretty much. Yeah. They did, and they were so vocal because where I took my little boy, and where I was sat, they were far out-noising some of the Saints fans.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like you say. I remember the Challenge Cup, the grand final, semi-final. Yeah, grand final, semi-final against Wigan. Right, I was commentating for RDTV. Right, and when Lee Mossop scored to send Salford through, right, they dived over, and the look as I was looking at the crowd, right. It was like an animal. It was like one being, everyone sort of moving in one. And I felt myself choking. Felt myself like choking up with pride. Because I thought this is unbelievable. That there's so many people in that end that it means that much to, and they've had that moment. You know what I mean? And it was, that night was a magical one. We go to various places and make loads of noise. And lots of people say that, don't they? Oh, yeah, Salford, great support. Even Sky are jumping on the bandwagon now, talking about how good Salford's away support is. So they are getting the message. And people obviously will be hearing that through their TVs and their radios. And they'll be thinking, what's going down at Salford? Might go. I think we'll go and check out that what's going on at Salford through that media, if that makes sense, of saying Salford support is fantastic. Come along. And that's the exciting part about it, really. But yeah. Really passionate bunch, and willing to dig when they need to.
Yeah, you mentioned media there. Another big thing that's happened just this week is the brand new website, which is massive for modern sport if you're looking to promote your game. And it looks a really good, up-to-date and modern website. And that will help traffic, people finding that information. They can navigate around it, buy tickets easier, get to know the team, look at the team players. So that's a big plus as well.
Yeah, it's an engaging tool in it for potential fans, potential sponsors. Like you say, very good. set up for the website. Great content. I think they've integrated RDTV where you can watch, old games and interviews with players and things like that. So, it's like I say, it's an opportunity, it's a tool to entice new fans in and feed the passion of the current fans as well. Big hand clap for the club for making that happen. I'm sure as the season goes, they'll have more and more stuff on there to engage us and entertain us.
Yeah, it's so new it'll build. I absolutely agree with your comments around the fans and the fan base. They're so passionate that they sound like there's more than 10,000 at every game. It feels that big at every game. I love the stadium and I like the atmosphere when I've been there. So I'm hopefully be returning for many more games. And I just wanted to shout out that the website really, because all modern sport needs an infrastructure behind it like that, and digital, and the websites are so important. They sound probably like it's a BAU, business as usual. Yeah, just create a website, but it's not. It's much more than that if you want to progress your team and your sport. So I think that's a massive plus for the club to create that. And I again, as you say, looking forward to reading a lot more of the news and the comments and the engaging features on that in the coming year.
Is that 3-1 on Pizzazz?
It's 3-1. I'm just making that now. They get one for the website. We've got one for the top. We've got one for the Christmas top. We've got one, but I don't know what it's for. I think
I just gave it us. We didn't have any.
We're in the distance now, boys. You can't see us. We're in the distance now. 3-1 up.
That's it. You're 2 tries up. Yeah, we need 2 converted tries, and we're almost done.
Yeah. Well, we say Devil in the Detail beats the Dockhouse Rugby Show on pizzazz, but I think the real winner tonight from all this, and a word that you've mentioned on many an occasion, Robert, is the community.
Yeah, it is.
The community is the winner,
and that's what Salford Devils is. It's the community club, and we are engaging with the community of Salford and Manchester, and we are seeing returns on it. It's just about building on that, and this community structure isn't built overnight, and you don't sort of grab massive success overnight from it, but you have to have it to eventually get the big success. And I applaud the club. They're doing fantastic things off the field in that area. The Salford Devils Foundation, are top notch at what they do. You can't praise them enough, especially if you know what they do and the amount of people that obviously work for them. We're just hoping, obviously, they can build on the success of last season, that playoffs, and engage with more fans, get more season ticket holders in, and grow the game and the sport in Salford. Obviously, engaging with schools and colleges and universities help. This obviously the new University of Salford sponsor on the shirt is a big thing as well, because obviously Salford have a massive student population, so engaging with them is a must for me, to hopefully build bridges there, and then possibly get season ticket offers to them on a student level will help grow our profile in the university.
Yeah, it's a very good point, really. Sponsorship is such a key part of professional sport, and clever sponsorship, and that is an excellent sponsor. It really is, having a local. I think Warrington do the same, don't they, with the University of Chester? It helps with that engagement.
The problem is with Salford University, it says Salford University, University of Salford, Manchester. So there was a bit of sort of, let's call it, disappointment that it has Manchester on it, right? But it's not our sponsor. You can't say to Salford University, can you do me a favour and just knock off that Manchester bit while I stuck it on the shirt? Yeah, branded it. You can't say that.
It's part of Greater Manchester, and they're looking to engage a much wider audience.
Yeah.
So the benefits of it, I certainly understand why some people may be disappointed in that, but the benefits of it in the long run outweigh the disappointment, hopefully, anyway.
Yeah, and I think obviously the fear of becoming Manchester RLFC has gone, because we're showing that Salford Red Devils is a success and can engage with community, and we don't need that sort of ticket, the Manchester ticket, to reach out to a bigger audience. We're doing it through the Salford Devils brand as we are, So I think a lot of people now are thinking, it's not as big as a problem as it was, let's say, 5 years ago, when we were scratching out and the RFL were hovering. Marwan was talking about it becoming Manchester Red Devils, and everyone got a bit upset about it. I think that ghost is dead. Now it's about moving forward with what we've got. Like you said, University of Salford, do a great job. Lots of great, students learning to do different careers, and they're all in the city of Salford. Spending the money, helping the economy, and hopefully becoming Salford Devils fans at the same time.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. I think it's an excellent sponsor, and you're right. Salford Red Devils is an identity on its own. It shouldn't be worried about having other bits showing on a shirt. That we're not at risk of losing that strong identity. It's too strong to be overshadowed by just the word of Manchester on there. It's there to accompany what's there. So hopefully we see the benefits of that over the season.
Hopefully. Well, like I say, I just think it needed to mention that there was a bit of opposition to it, but really, I think everyone's kind of grown up now and thought, well, you know what, like you said, the club is the club. Salford Devils is the identity. So don't forget, they've changed the badge, they've changed the mascot, they've changed everything from when Paul King came in. So they're on like another journey that they want this brand to go on, and I think we've gone past that. Should we be Manchester? And don't forget Swinton Lions, which is our other local side. They kind of flirted with the Manchester thing as well. So if obviously people who want a Manchester club can go and watch Swinton. And I suppose Swinton Lions will welcome them as well, because they're a good club down at Haywood Road. Cover them on the Sports Zone. Talk to a few of their coaches and their managers. Doing a good job down there. So I suppose it feeds options. If you want to watch a Manchester club, go and watch Swinton.
Yeah, there's opportunities for all fans.
Exactly, and that's what it is. Like I say, Salford, the opportunity club.
So for those that don't know, Rob, Devil in the Detail, where can they find you?
You can find us on Facebook, Devil in the Detail SRD. You can find us on X at DITD SRD, and you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. And you can also find us on our website as well, which is the Devil in the Detail SRD. .co.uk.
I'll put them in the description. We go out on YouTube and we go out on our Podbean, which goes to Spotify and all them as well. But I'll put the description on there and where they can link and where they can find you. Dave, have you got anything more?
Sorry, can I just jump in? It's .com. It's the Devil in the Detail SRD.com.
Devil in the Detail SRD.com.
The Devil in the Detail SRD. Yeah,
it's
important because if you don't put that in, you end up on a rock band website. Yeah.
Well, if you just put in Devil in the Detail, you will find a film that I made when I was at university called Devil in the Detail.
Really?
Yeah.
What's it about?
It's about a serial killer that goes for a role in a play to play a serial killer, and he gives such a compelling audition that the director wants to hire him. His assistant is very dubious, and she can see kind of right through him. And it's about toxic and helping behavior, toxic masculinity. It's based with themes around German expressionism and Soviet montage and all that. So if you like a bit of old school style horror, it's not so much a horror, it's more psychological. But it's only a short film.
So
whichever address you put in, you're going to get good content. We don't know what it'll be, but you get good content.
So we're talking like Sunday night watching then, are we?
Like Sunday night watching. If you want to watch a film, there's one out called Billy Smith at the moment. That's on Amazon Prime. I'm in that one, and that is a horror. It's a bit dark and a bit deep. So watch that on a Sunday with the lights off and some popcorn.
Good. We'll do that between the two Christmas films, eh?
Yeah. And over Christmas, it's a great film. Definitely go and watch that. But just a big thanks from me, really, to Robert. You've been an excellent guest. It's been delightful chatting with you and talking about the club and a lot of the ins and the outs and the opportunities. And we share a lot of the same thoughts. So I'm certainly rooting for the club and rooting for a great Super League in 2025. No doubt we'll have more opportunities to chat before then or throughout the season. We can catch up again and see how well all the teams are doing.
Yeah, it's been an honour, mate, to come on and talk to you boys about the club and, show that, what's going on really behind the scenes and give, your listeners an idea of what's really going on at Salford Red Devils.
Yeah, no, super. You've been great, Robert, and thank you for your time. We do appreciate it. And like I said, a lot of, we've experienced it in some places where other like podcast channels and things like that don't want to come on. They see it as competition. It's not. Rugby League's the winner. We can get to know about the ins and outs of from you as a Salfordian and what Salford's got going on. And no, it's great. It's promotion. It's promoting the brand, and that's what we're all about. Same as you guys are. So thank you for your time. Thank you from me and Dave. And yeah, we'll see you again. Hopefully in the season, and we'll get another one going.
Yeah, good stuff, boys.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the Dockhouse Rugby Show. Don't forget, you can catch us on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, and loads of places, really. We're everywhere, trying to be as much as we can. You can also buy us a coffee. I'll put the details of that underneath. And also, Devil in the Detail, they also have a little place where you can buy them a coffee too. Get on and give them a support. Don't forget, after tonight's show, leave your views in our comments section. We'd love to hear from you.
Keith and Dave talk all things rugby league on the Dockhouse Rugby Show, with news, match reviews and special guests from the world of rugby league. Also available in audio format as the Dockhouse Rugby Pod.